Two things that you would never think of going together is Final Fantasy and Disney, but it happened. Whilst I'm a fan of the former, I'm not really a Disney fan. All the breaking into song and dance does my nut in, to be honest. But I do love some of their output, mostly the Pixar stuff such as Toy Story and Monsters Inc, but all this shite about princesses getting poisoned by apples and getting nailed by fairies isn't for me. I'm a manly man, for God's sake. This is my first time playing Kingdom Hearts. When I was younger, I never played any of the series for whatever reason, and I regret not doing so now because as a kid I would have been well into Kingdom Hearts. That's not to say I'm not now, it just doesn't quite have the same impact because I can't really carry the nostalgia for it into adulthood like I do with Final Fantasy. The game was created when Square-Enix were in a spot of financial trouble after the Final Fantasy movie Spirits Within fucked it. It was a pretty similar situation to what Square were in 1987. They needed a game to get out of trouble. Thankfully, Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy X pulled them out. Success deserved then, since Kingdom Hearts is a well-designed game with nice visuals, decent combat, mostly, an interesting story and a great sense of imagination and creativity running through it. The game starts off very strange, with main character Sora in a dream where you have to pick your starting stats, though the game doesn't really communicate that very well. You have three choices: sword, shield or staff. You pick which one you want to specialise in, attack, defence or magic. This will decide what level you learn certain skills and what stats level. Then you pick one of them to drop, so if you pick shield then staff like I did, you become a defensive character who sacks spells off a bit. You can still use them, but you get less MP from levels than if you picked it as your first choice. But like I said, the game doesn't outright tell you this really. Then you go to another dream where you're asked 3 questions and the answers determine the pace of how you level up in the game. If the game tells you start in the morning, it's faster paced at the start but slows down towards the end at the higher levels. Starting at noon is a balanced pace, and evening, well, I'm sure you can guess that one. I didn't know this until I looked at a wiki. The game makes no allusion to what it means. The questions have absolutely no relevance. The sword, shield and staff thing, you can read between the lines a bit, but this, no. After that confusing start, Sora wakes up on his home island and we meet his 2 friends Riku and Kairi. Riku is Sora's friendly rival. He acts all calm and casual, but you know when Sora beats him at something, he goes home at night for a cry wank. I became more and more convinced of that as the story went on because he's a bitch throughout it. As you can probably guess, he becomes evil, being a little piss baby annoyance throughout the whole game. He also looks like one of them older lads who hangs out with younger kids on the park to look cool to them, possibly a sex offender, but the story didn't give me any ammo to go on for that one, sadly. Then Kairi, the girl they both want to unlock the door to. Not the greatest pun I know, but I'm trying. Together they want to build a raft to explore new worlds, but their island gets attacked by the game's main enemy, the Heartless. Sora tries to defend it and is given the Keyblade from some cosmic voice. Stuff gets weird, the island is destroyed, and Sora, Riku and Kairi are split up across different worlds. You then get introduced to Goofy and Donald. They discover King Mickey has gone missing. He leaves a note saying that he's noticed worlds in the sky disappear and is trying to get to the bottom of it. He instructs Donald and Goofy to find the Keyblade wielder. Sora was transported to a place called Traverse Town and eventually meets up with Donald, Goofy and Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, but he's called Leon in this, I don't know why. This is where you learn about the Heartless a little bit. They are pouring into different worlds via a keyhole in each one and eventually destroying them. Sora's Keyblade is the key to seal those holes and drive the darkness back. And this is where the game starts properly. Sora, Donald and Goofy decide to help each other, going from world to world, sealing each hole and searching for Riku, Kairi and Mickey along the way. What's interesting about each world is that you're viewing each one from Sora's point of view. He's just a lad who wants to do good and has never been off his own island before, so each world feels mystical and foreign. What also helps is that Sora is quite a likeable protagonist. He's optimistic and cheerful, which encourages you to keep playing his journey. Donald and Goofy are also really good companions. They keep the humour up, and by the end of the game, Sora, Donald and Goofy do genuinely act like really good pals.
Really? Well, we'll just see about that! Ah!
Sora ain't gonna go anywhere.
You'd betray your king?
Not on your life. But I'm not gonna betray Sora either, 'cause he's become one of my best buddies after all we've been through together. See you later, Donald! Could you tell the king I'm really sorry?
Hold on, Goofy! We'll tell him together!
Going through each world, you're going to be fighting a lot of Heartless. Whilst Donald and Goofy will be with you most of the time, in some Disney worlds you can swap one of them out for the world's corresponding character, such as Jack Skellington, Ariel or Tarzan to name a few. They level up when they're not in the party, so don't be afraid to swap them out if you want. The combat is quite simple, but there's room for depth in here. On the easier difficulties you can get away with button bashing, but you can play this game very skillfully if you time your attacks, dodges and parries right, which is needed on the higher difficulties. You've got magic and special moves as well as unlockable abilities to add some variety. It's nice that you can make it as deep as you want, but keeps it simpler for those who don't want to invest loads into it. And I was thankful for that, because the combat can get brain hemorrhage levels of frustrating thanks to one, a shite camera that would rather show you an enemy's big fat arse rather than a nice view of the battlefield, leaving you to get destroyed by attacks coming from off screen that you would never see coming. And two, some bosses have attacks that I am sure are undodgeable, and oh do they like to spam them over and over. I'm sure someone will say, oh my god, I finished the game on proud mode without getting hit. Don't care. And three, whilst Donald and Goofy are likeable characters, a lot of the affection you have for them will be ruined when you get into fights. Donald is a mage, but he doesn't fucking fight like one. He gets right up in monsters' faces and just stands there whilst they summon what is basically the apocalypse on him. Goofy fares a bit better since he's a tank. Just like Donald though, he's not really heard of dodging attacks, so it falls to you to do most of the fighting. But once you get levels under your belt, you can absolutely destroy in a stylish way without the need to learn tons of combos. But not only is there ground fighting, there is another form of combat in this game: space combat? Yeah, got to say, I wasn't expecting that. You have to fly from world to world using the gummy ship. This is where the game turns into a Star Fox-esque shooter, and it's bad. Everything looks like it's a placeholder. What is this? And this? You can just hold the fire button to win. You can customise and build your own ship, but the builder is very janky. I just stuck to blueprints personally. The game really ramps up in cool ways towards the end. You get the ability to fly in certain worlds from Peter Pan, and it makes for some really cool fights. The worlds also get quite crazy as well. The last area of the game, the end of the world, looks like a bad LSD trip in the best way possible. The plot follows the same pattern really. It starts off slowish, but it gets pretty complex, maybe even convoluted towards the end. Some of the finer points of the plot are explained in Ansem reports. Ansem is the main villain of the game, by the way. You collect these throughout the story as well as some side stuff, and they explain quite a bit about the Heartless and Ansem himself. I won't try to explain it all because I'll be here all day. It's just annoying that this stuff has been relegated to reading material, but I get the feeling Kingdom Hearts was never meant to be a standalone game. There's lots of plot points that don't get explained, but I imagine they will in the sequels, like how Ansem became evil, where Mickey was this whole time, and so on. Plus it ends on quite a "this journey is not over" note, and that's fine. I'm looking forward to the rest of it. I really like the all-round imagination of Kingdom Hearts. It's clearly a game where a bunch of creative people have been given the freedom they deserve without smothering corporate interference, and wouldn't you know it, that made a great game. The art style suits it really well. Neither the Final Fantasy or Disney characters look out of place when they are interacting with each other, except in some cutscenes where the lip sync wasn't even bothered with. But other than that, it's a great looking game. The colourful graphics really pop, especially at 1080p 60 frames a second on the PS4. The soundtrack is also absolutely spot on. Every world's theme nails the personality of each one, and the main theme is stuck in my head. It's so simple yet effective. I can't play the music on its own though, else Square-Enix will copyright strike it, or so says their streaming policy on the game, the utter cunt.